Cosatu is planning a nationwide strike tomorrow. The Trade Union Federation says this is to mark the Global Day for Decent Work. Cosatu has said 3 million South Africans lost their jobs during the COVID-19 lockdown, and it wants to highlight socio-economic issues. We speak to the organization's Sizwe Pamla. Sizwe, good evening to you, and thanks for your time. So tell us a bit more about the strike. What exactly will it entail?
Well, the strike tomorrow, firstly, we are planning to ensure that the majority of Cosatu members stay at home. They withdraw their labor. Of course, we appreciate that we are under COVID-19 regulations and restrictions, or we have decided to decentralize our activities. We have something like 32 marches and people all across the country. We also want to ensure that the majority of our members participate, even those from rural areas and small towns. We have decided to have as many activities as possible. The idea here really is to focus our energies on highlighting the challenges that workers are facing. We are talking to both the public and the private sector employers. I mean, if you look at what is happening at the public sector level, there is a wage freeze in the public service. If you look at the vacancies that are not being filled, the budget cuts that have impacted labor institutions like CMA, UIF itself is really struggling. Almost 20 months after we had COVID in this country, UIF is still struggling to pay money on time. For example, we have got 40 million rand worth of applications, and yet only 6 million of those have been paid so far. This is something that is not acceptable. At the same time, the economy is on its knees. The private sector is not doing enough. If you look at the February budget, they were given tax incentives to invest money back into the economy. We're not seeing the results. We went to Netlec. We put together an economic recovery and reconstruction plan. We agreed on some of the things that needed to be done. Almost a year later, there's very little by way of action, be it both government and the private sector buying local. We're not seeing any of that. If you look at the money that is still being taken out of the country, millions and billions are taken out of the country every year. Mechanization and automation are happening without a jobs plan, without workers being consulted. So there are a lot of this problem.
So Sizwe, they're wide-ranging issues then. When did you initially decide on the strike taking place?
Well, you remember that even last year we did have this activity, but this decision was taken by the Federation Central Committee that was convened 3 weeks ago. In that Central Committee, we looked at the state of the working class in South Africa, and we decided that in the build-up to the mid-term budget policy statement earlier next month, we need to take to the streets. We need to submit a memorandum of demands, and we need to do a follow-up at Netlec, to sit there at Netlec and take some of these demands and make sure that our social partners are aware of where we stand on these issues. And then after this March and after the mid-term budget policy statements in particular, we will also convene a central executive committee meeting to get the report back.
Sizwe, I'm quite a cynical person. So the fact that this protest takes place in the middle of an election cycle, we know you have a love-hate relationship, not just with the ANC, but also with government. It could be a day off that basically kills 2 birds with 1 stone.
Not necessarily, no. This is not helpful for an elections campaign. You cannot agitate workers if really you are trying to make them vote. If really we were compromising, in a sense, we would have said, look, let's allow this to pass. Because remember, we are tackling issues that are controversial here. We are tackling issues that are difficult. We are raising them sharply. We are mobilizing workers to the streets. And we are saying to them, they are being let down by this administration, and we are taking them to protest. It will be the strangest way to campaign for an organization.
But these are issues that you've known all along, Sizwe. You didn't know these issues 3 weeks ago. These have been the issues under COVID-19. and still you decided to come out and publicly say that you were going to be campaigning on behalf of the ANC. So either there's a level of hypocrisy that is taking place here, or, you know, somebody is being fooled.
Not at all. Look, we did discuss these issues, and we discussed them late last year. We have discussed them in our Central Committee meeting, and we have made it very clear that we are going to support the ANC, and we gave reasons for that. We made it very clear that looking at the current political landscape in the country, looking at the progress that we are making in other areas, we still believe that there is no alternative for the workers in particular at this time.
All right.
But it doesn't mean that we are happy with where we are. And it doesn't mean that we don't have a right to actually stand up against the ANC government and saying, look, despite all of the things that we have worked on together, for an example, we worked with the ANC government on putting together this ESCOM social compact.
All right.
And there are many things that we have worked on together, but it doesn't mean that there are no issues. And it doesn't mean also that just because we're in an election season, we cannot as workers raise our issues sharply and protest against the very same ANC government.
All right, Sizwe, we're going to have to leave it there for tonight. Plenty more then on that strike that's set to be held tomorrow. Stephen?